Good morning and welcome everyone. It's actually good afternoon and welcome everyone to our podcast, Marketing Leadership. Marketing Leadership is all about the special place in an organization that's got what I think sometimes is considered either an art or a skill. I've even heard people talk about the difference between um, science and marketing and art and skill and trying to equate it to a science. And I imagine that many people consider marketing as something special, something unique. So you have to be gifted with marketing. Today we've got someone really special joining us. I see he's just joined us on the live on the podcast. I'm going to invite him in now. Abdul is is a really special guy, and I'm so looking forward to today's episode. But before we start the episode, and before I introduce you to Abdul, I just want to share who this podcast is for. The podcast, this specific podcast, and you'll know that I have other podcasts as well. But this specific one is all about the special, unique individuals that are are involved with the day to day that special sauce, if you like, that special ingredient that brings new customers into an organization. My definition, as follows Peter Drucker's definition, is that the purpose of any business is the acquisition of customers and the fulfillment of their needs. And if you can't do that, not having a business entails having no customers to fulfill their needs. And many people spend hours and hours and hours developing products and services and courses. And I mean, if I look at the cross section of hours and hours that I've had software people that would spend a year, would spend millions on developing software long before they even know that there's a market out there for it. So number one for us is following certain principles. On Fridays, I cover at 10 a.m. on Friday, London time, British summertime at the moment. I cover the 42 business growth principles, and please tune in for us, tune in with us for those 42 business principles. I cover one a week. You're welcome to join us. We got multiple marketing leadership episodes, and I want to introduce our guest today. So, Abdul, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to pull up your really good CV. And yesterday, when I spoke to Abdul, he had what I thought was a magnificent story, and I think it's important that we get to understand and get to know the people behind the scenes. Welcome, Abdul.
Thank you very much for having me on, Dudley. I really appreciate the platform that you've built here today, and I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah, I think you're going to be great for the audience as well, and for all those special people out there that either want to know more about marketing, already in marketing, or see marketing from the outside and need marketing people, need marketing expertise, skills, tools, and so on. So let's talk about Abdul. Abdul, wow. Abdul, CEO of private equity firm making investments accessible for 10 million pounds plus invested in high net worth individuals or invested by, I keep saying that, but invested by high net worth individuals, family offices and executives. Um, you use, I think, bespoke roadmaps. I think that's what you call it. And you also talk about bespoke roadmaps for professionals to achieve financial security and retire early. You originate from Birmingham, in the Midlands in the United Kingdom, and I think you're the better guy to tell your story, and I think how you got into this and so on. But you really are a from your portfolio and your profile and all that. You're a marketing expert in your space around. Um, I would say that special place called property, and not many people get that right. Um,
Mhm.
and I think your journey leading into that, I think, makes it fascinating to listen to. So, Abdul, tell us tell us a bit about you. Where do where do you hail from, and how did you get into this space?
It's quite an interesting journey. So I grew up in a very traditional poor background. So I didn't grow up in money at all. Money wasn't accessible to any of us. But I, from a young age, had the ambition that I wanted to, one, pave the way for the next generation coming through, but also to to show that anyone from regardless of what background you're from, you can go out there and achieve success. So I set out on this journey. I was straight out of school and went straight into business. And my first business was a marketing agency. And the key specialty in what we were doing at the time was building communities and personal brands for businesses. It's a very unique twist. You've got ads, you've got everything else, you've got ClickFunnels, you've got all the new tools that we have today. But traditionally, it was just purely organic social media and offline communities. And I wanted to combine the two worlds. You go through your business mistakes, you go through the ups and downs, and I'm similar to myself. I went through the business ups and downs over the many years, and I fell into real estate because I was in Birmingham. I hit this glass ceiling of I couldn't make more money. As a young entrepreneur, I wasn't appreciated or valued. So I had to go where the money was, where the opportunities were. So I moved to London as a capital city. And that's where I made my mark. Fast forward a bit, I was consulting with property businesses as a commercial director, as a sales and marketing director. I was there to help the businesses grow. So I was working at the architects, property developers, construction companies, brokers, all of the type of businesses that you have within the property sphere. And in order to feed that business, I thought, okay, I'm looking after these clients and my responsibility is to grow. What is the best way for me to do that? So I set up London Property Community. London Property Community grew to about 10,000 plus members. And those members were everything from high net worth individuals to businesses, to brokers, to financial institutions. And we partnered with NatWest as well. So it was a great opportunity for me to add value to my audience, but also to build my brand. I fell into the idea of raising capital. And because I really started to understand that investor relations wasn't something that was taught. It wasn't something that you can just pick up. Most businesses didn't know the concept of raising capital. And I did my first deal, which was 1.2 million on a site in Essex. And the developer at the time gave me a massive paycheck, but also gave me equity in the deal. And I was like, okay, there's some money to be made here. There's some opportunities here. And then I started to raise more and more capital. And then a lot of people within the property space started to knock on my door. And they said, how do you do this? How are you able to raise so much capital with the little or no experience? You're not a property developer. How did you go about doing this? So I set up my own private equity academy where we look after now 100 plus property developers and clients that we advise on how to raise capital consistently. We raised about 10 million plus, and we're en route to becoming a fund and it's eventually a regulated firm, so we can provide investment advice on a retail basis. But at the minute, we're working with sophisticated investors so far.
That's magnificent because what strikes me as sort of from a marketing background that you found a sweet spot for yourself. I think digital marketing is one of those type of industries that can be quite broad and can pull you in so many different directions, and can get pretty confusing because I think even today, more so than in the past, because
Mhm.
digital marketing, 10, 20, 10, 10, 15 years ago, I mean, it just literally started. I think the back end of the 90s, when he started learning what the internet was, we didn't have Google. There were no search engines. I mean, there were directory listings, if you remember that far back. And then it went into all of a sudden you could use various search tools and you could start posting ads. I think that was in the 2000s. And then it just this rapid um, proliferation of software and tools and people saying, all you have to do is, and click this and do that. And you just need a funnel and you just need a landing page. You just need a lead magnet. And all that fancy. They can pull you in many, many directions. And I think one actually has to cut your teeth sometimes in understanding the chaos before can narrow down and say, okay, where's my sweet spot? But I think what really gets me about your story and what's is that community that you built. And it's almost like it's a paradox in a way because digital marketing is all about the people out there on the internet. Those people that tend to browse. I mean, they're not really considered human, if you like, because they considered a click or a view. Right? I mean, that's the statistic. You just look at stats, like how many people landed on my site and how many people clicked here and there. but to shift then into a community-based marketing, to build a network of over 10,000 individuals in a short space of time, to partner with NatWest and to put a lot of marketing strategy in place. All of a sudden, I think the shift from being the guy that does sort of the ads, I think, I'm guessing, all the way to becoming the strategic guy. Now you're becoming a potentially a fund manager where you are able to help others achieve their sort of goals and their destinations wherever they want to go. And I think that for me is the wonderful shift that you've made, and that you've used your marketing talent to enable others to get what they want, but you seem to still be in the learning curve. And I think that's what fascinates me about, especially the marketing fraternity. Everyone is always about doing better, learning more, getting the better way of doing things. I think we're returning back to authenticity, to realness, to dealing with real people, and stop talking about numbers and so on. I think you one of the guys that I've met that have got that right. Am I right in my summary there, Abdul?
Absolutely. You can't replace real relationships. And for me, it wasn't about the number of people that we had the community. It was about how strong were the relationships. When we founded this community, we started off in hotel lobbies where even the general manager of the hotel didn't know we were running. Started off in this sort of organic approach of just bringing people together, no presentations, no demos or pitches or anything like that. Just bringing people together in this format where they can just talk and you're just facilitating conversations. That's all you're doing. But if you become an influencer or you become this leader naturally because they see to you as this person who's given them this platform. But more importantly, the community isn't about me. It isn't about my clients. It wasn't about my business. The community was built for them. What did they want? What did they value the most? And what I saw was all these events that were taking place, they were all presentations and influencers and people sat down. What truly people wanted was a connection with as many people as they possibly could from around the room. So that connection can only come if you give them the time to be able to do that. So we thought, okay, forget all that scripted stuff, forget all the presentations, forget all the formats that we might. Let's bring people together and let that organically grow. People started coming back. People started bringing friends. People started to see, people's results in terms of actual getting clients from that room. And that was amazing because here I was, someone with just a marketing background now becoming an influencer in the real estate space very quickly without having any barriers. Like there were no barriers of age, there were no barriers of okay, how much of his net worth was, how much income did he have coming in, how successful was this person. The platform in itself, the community in itself gave me and my business and my clients the credibility in order for them to grow. And that's the important phrase in the credibility element of things. How quick can we build credibility in a market where nobody knows us? And setting up your own community rather than attending other people's communities, setting up your own community is often the best way to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you've done that successfully, and you keep on contributing, and it's often for me the most successful people are the ones that are more concerned about others having success than themselves. And I think that as soon as you move into that space, I think you managed to do that quite successfully. Now you're moving into that the influencer type of thing, but it's almost like influencer, but not really. You're more of a thought leader, I think, in that space. I think influencer can be seen as I mean, there could be a fine line between an influencer, those that just, they go down to the local store and they flash their latest purchase on TikTok or whatever, and now they call themselves an influencer, as opposed to someone that's truly changing lives. And I think one should have a clear definition between the two. Yes, you can have a million followers, but are you truly making a difference in their lives? And I think that's where you've differentiated yourself. Maybe tell us a little bit about some of those the starting. I mean, where did you come up with the idea? How did you get started? I mean, how did you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start inviting people. What does that beginning look like? I mean, how did you even come up with the idea?
I think building. I moved to London, and there were a lot of events, but you had two different platforms. You've got a platform like Eventbrite, and you've got a platform like Meetup. Eventbrite's a very formal structure. It's a very formal thing to be a part. It's a presentation, seminar, conference. It's a ticket sales generated sort of approach. For me, it didn't matter about ticket sales. It mattered about one, how much data could I collect from that, but more importantly, how do I take the concept of Meetup, which people love? Because Meetup was a platform eventually bought up by WeWork, but it was a platform where people love because
Mm.
if they didn't know anyone, they felt safe enough to go along to a Meetup and build relationships. And being a person who didn't know anyone in London at the time, I used to attend the meetups, and I was like, "This is brilliant! People are just turning up and having a conversation. Why isn't this happening in a corporate setting? Why isn't this happening in an environment where real estate, very traditional business setting? Why isn't it happening with that set?" And that's where the idea formulate. And for me, it's not about trying to get marketing or trying to get the community perfect in the get go. It's trial and error, but more importantly, it's just going and doing it. So, turning up to a hill hotel lobby, putting it on Eventbrite, putting it on Meetup, sending the invite of these individuals to, when you send that reminder email, sending them to WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups, just to get people engaged and sort of introduced. You start to build a bit more momentum. And people just turned up to this hotel lobby, and the general manager at the time, and this is a funny story, he was panicking because how have 50 to 100 people just turned up? You haven't told me, you haven't booked anything. You've just taken over the whole of this hotel lobby without booking anything. So I would stand by the entrance of the door of the hotel lobby, and I would just say, and I would tell the receptionist, "Oh, if somebody comes and asks for London property community, we're just over there." So we took over this sort of section of the hotel lobby. People just walk in, and people would be like, people would just join in and start conversation. And again, it wasn't about me pitching. So what I did was I just like, "Hi, how you doing? What brings you here? How did you find out about it?" And okay, there might be some useful introductions for you. Go and have a chat with them. And I would just kind of let them to it. But I would always follow up. And I think here's the thing about real people think about building a brand that's really large and you've got amazing amount of community. Where business actually happens, where transactions actually happen, is that one-to-one follow-up, that conversation that you have with individuals. So for me, it was, how do I take this audience of say 150 people, 200 people that come to this event? How do I take this audience and follow up with every single individual to understand it? And even in my business today, I still utilize the same philosophy of,
Mm.
rather than what, like in my space, most investment firms will do is they will hand you over to an account manager and you're just another number in the sort of spectrum of their clients, and you're replaceable. They don't really care about it. How do I hone in and truly care about the clients and the service that I'm providing, but really get to spend time? And I was able to do more transactions, even on my social media today. I might not have I don't even have a 10,000 plus following on any of my social media channels. I have just over 4,000 followers on my Instagram account. Yet I am doing transactions day in, day out and building a six-figure company without having to necessarily become that typical social media influencer and having thousands of views, but no business and no money in my account.
Exactly.
And the interesting stat that I saw, this was going back a couple of years ago. There's an interesting stat that I saw. They said only 4% of 18 to 35-year-olds made a profit or a living wage from their business.
Wow, that's low.
That's really low. Like 96% of
Wow,
people
that's low.
weren't weren't utilizing, were not making enough money to be able to sustain a living from it. And I was like, okay, so the influencer world, again, the majority of these guys are probably still in full-time jobs or still doing something on the side, which is great, but they're not real. They're portraying themselves to be successful when they're not that successful. And secondly, when it comes to like how people utilize social media, The art of social selling is so powerful. There's a lot of research done where, you know, probably, I think it was 70 something percent of salespeople when utilizing social media to generate leads in any way, shape, or form. Now, how do you take something that's so confusing and so large? And even if you are an introvert, you're afraid of building this brand, how do you utilize the tool of social media to then generate yourself clients and business? It's achievable now, but it's having the right approach with it rather than trying to scale what you're doing, which is what most people.
Yeah, and you can't necessarily take what you do face to face into the LinkedIn world. I mean, you have to start. You have to open up a conversation, and how do you do that? I mean, you probably have a few sentences if you could. I mean, there's so many theories out there about about LinkedIn. What is your approach? I mean, do you use LinkedIn? Is that a thing for you?
LinkedIn is where I do majority of my business right now, and LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. I don't go out there. I'm not active in terms of content posting. Like I'll post here and there, but I'm not as active or frequent as many others. But what I will do is I'll spend time connecting with people and then sending them message. I'm very much of a direct messaging type of guy because I want to not get a sale, but the idea of taking a conversation as offline as quick as I possibly can. So
Mm.
what I do is I send a message. I'll say, and again, I personalize message. I'm not trying to send 100 messages to an automated bot or anything. I'm trying to send 10 to 20 quality messages a day where I'm just sitting there and I'm doing this very simple formula of, hi, how you doing? Hope you're well. And I'll find something on their profile to tailor to. Oh, I noticed you're in this industry, or congrats on that recent success. So, I admire what you've achieved over the last 10 years. It's great to see more people doing this, this, and this. And then I'll ask a simple question. I won't send a sales script, which is what most people get these days on LinkedIn. I will literally just ask a simple question, say, out of curiosity, have you thought about this? So in my case, it'd be, have you thought about hands-off investment? Or in many other people's case, have you thought about utilizing social media to build your business? It's a strategy which allows you to get a response rather than you say, here's what I do. Are you interested? Yes or no. It's more like, have you thought about it? Let's engage in a conversation around it. I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just trying to engage with you at this point in time. When asking a question, it prompts a response. And at the end of the message, I'll say something very simple like, let me know in the meantime, have an amazing start to the week. Or PS, happy birthday if it is on their profile. So I'll utilize this script regardless of which industry, right? For example, right now I run 5 of the companies and I've invested in several of the businesses. And I utilize the same approach for each and every business, just tailored to that audience that I'm trying to attract. And the
What?
goal here
What?
is book an
Yeah.
appointment.
Say again. I missed that.
The goal here is to book an appointment. So if they respond and say, hey, I haven't really thought about it. No, maybe it's so and so. They'll give you various different responses. But I'll be okay, why don't we get a conversation? Let's get something in the dark. Like, why try and get the sale in the beginning when all you're really trying to do is engage in a conversation? The quicker you can take a conversation offline, more appointments you can generate every single week. The more appointments you can generate every week, the more potential closes that you can have on a day-to-day basis.
So you take it very, very quickly from a marketing or let's sort of a connection into a sales engagement because all of a sudden you know your customer journey and they are real people. I mean, a customer journey, and I always smile at that term, but I use it myself. But I always smile at the term. It's actually more a buying journey of a customer. Um, and maybe even one layer deeper, it's a relationship building and then buying a journey of a customer. Because I mean, to start off a relationship, you don't ask on the first date to get married, and I think that's I don't know if people do that, but uh, I think the same thing goes with your approach, and even in networking meetings, you can't meet 1,000 people a day. You can meet 5, 10, 15 people at a good networking meeting. You can have decent conversations. And I've done that whole networking route and seen it's quite interesting. And you meet so many interesting people. However, they're not always your target market. it was very, very difficult to sort of look through the crowd and say, are those really the people that I need to be speaking to? And I think with LinkedIn and those kind of tools, it means that you can start narrowing your search. You can be a lot more efficient, and you can approach still in a manner in which you start a relationship. And I think that's the secret, isn't it? It's my intent is clear. I'm not here to sell you anything. Let's just see if there is something. If there's nothing, that's all fine. I mean, that doesn't matter. But I understand who you are. I've taken the trouble. I've taken some effort to understand who you are. And then, I think there's a lot to be said about that whole relationship and connection thing, which I think 5, 10, 15 years ago was we were missing a lot of that. It was all about just hammering the pay per click and the click bait, I think they were started calling it, and sucking people into your sales funnels, and getting people to click through and to buy things and then to upsell and cross sell them and take them on a journey, but there's no relationship. And then you wonder why you're churning customers and people feel unconnected. I don't know what your view is on that.
Um, I have currently a 90% conversion rate. And I'm seeing this day in, day out with the clients or businesses or people that I speak to. Their conversion rates when it comes to ads and it comes to big funnels are, it takes them months upon months to be able to get to that stage where they're generating business or even to build an engaged audience.
Mm.
For me, it's very simple. If I can get someone on the call, I can understand their needs and I can address the problem straight away. The quicker I can do that, the quicker I can generate a sale. That's why if I get someone on the call, 90% of the time I'm closing the deal because the opportunity is there. Now, I allow people to do their own research. And this is the very important thing. Social media is still a very much a powerful tool. I'm talking from a very sort of strategic approach of just messaging and turning into more of a sales approach. But let's look at our profiles, for example. I treat our profiles as a shop window. My LinkedIn profile is exactly like a shop window. If someone was to walk past their shop window, will they show interest? Will they connect? Or will they engage with you? Or will they have that thought at the back of their mind? Now, what I want to do with my shop window is to help them make a decision. If I do reach out,
Mm.
is this something for them? Have they thought about this? They obviously accepted my connection request because they saw my shop window. But because my shop window is optimized, it's got the right testimonials on there. It's got a written bio that explains what I do. It's got my experience and job descriptions. It's got endorsements. It's basically a newer version of a website or a landing page, but in a more social environment. And what that allows me to do is I spend probably less time creating content and posting content because the shop window does most of the work.
Yeah, and I think that's a great takeaway for today's episode is, I mean, besides relationship building and opening up conversations and taking it offline as quick as possible, and even in networking events, to go as quick as possible. You meet someone, they're the right sort of fit, quickly set an appointment or do a follow-up afterwards and do those one-to-one sessions. Really get well connected. I mean, that's really a great takeaway. And then in addition to that, I mean, this thing where it's the modern website. I mean, people spend so much time and effort and money. And I heard the other day someone spending like £120,000 on a brand new website, and they spent, I don't know, 18 months developing it, and it was supposed to be this magnificent thing, and it was a complete flop, and it like had no traffic, and it was sitting for months, and it had like brilliant speed, like upload speeds and that. And there you get people that are in competition with them that simply have well thought through profiles, well thought through approaches, and just being personable are getting all the business, as opposed to people that have invested hugely in these old assets. I mean, this is my view in a major shift. I mean, I think 10 years ago, having this perfect website was probably the big thing. But I love your shop window analogy, which is get your profiles right, show the right you in front of the people. Don't be something that you're not. put you out there, and it's like anything. It's like, this is who I am. This is what I can do. This is what other people think of me. Put your social proof out there. Put your testimonials. Show that you can do what it is that they potentially want you to do. And when you do connect, and they do agree to that connection, I mean, a lot of the buying process and the relationship building process has been taken care of. Hence your high conversion rate. So I mean, I'm just fascinated by that whole approach of yours, and it'd be great to see more people do more of that than this big numbers game, and just driving messages out there and getting no results. I don't know. Tell us more about your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. I think, even, let's take the content marketing approach, for example. Let's hold on that for a minute. Like, yes, we need to become more personalized. In a world where there's so much noise, personalized approaches are becoming even more effective. Let's take a look at our content, for example. A lot of people are afraid, or they put too much time and thought process into creating content because they feel like content is so important because it's become a chore. It's become this thing that people like feel like they have to do in order to stay relevant. They have to do in order for them to be successful. The reality is your content needs to be seen as, I call it a public journal. And this is what I used to tell my clients. Treat your online or social media content as a public journal. All people want to do is follow your journey from start to finish. And along that way, that covers social proof, that covers learning lesson, that covers tips and advice. But it's essentially showing people in real life scenarios, this is what you're doing. Whether it's, you know, for example, um, I recently started a fitness transformation. Man, if I'm in day 35, but every day I'll post up a post on social media about that fitness transformation, just me checking into the gym. Now, what that does is every time I go out there, it's this conversational spot. I have people stopping me in the street. I have people reaching out. Every time I go to networking them and they say, "Hey, yeah, I've noticed your fitness transformation. How's it going?" Oh, it's incredible what you've done. And what I've done is I haven't purposely gone and done this because, oh, it's content and I have to do it. I'm just documenting my journey, whether it's business life or whether it's anything else that I've looked in terms of hobby or interest. And what that allows people to do is to get to know you as an individual, get to trust and believe in what your business. When I'm posting, I'm on this site, I'm at this networking event, I'm sponsoring this event. Our day-to-day lives are so interesting to our clients and our audience because they want to see one, how you conduct yourself, but two, do you share the same values as that individual? And content is all about showing your authentic self and showing your true values. Even on your website or even on any landing page that you ever create, your values should be at the top of everything. And those values are not okay. We are honest, we're integral, we are.
Yeah, copy paste from everywhere where else.
Yeah. Let's dive in a little deeper into these values. Where do these values originate? What do these values mean to the client?
Yeah, and it's that whole resonate principle. It's that attraction. If people tend to like people that they resonate with, they tend to do business with people they resonate with. And in order to resonate, you can't resonate with a wall. I don't know, with a box. I mean, you can't do that. You got to resonate with somebody that's human. And if the more human and balanced you are, and that resonates with your audience, I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. For me, sometimes I see some of these. I mean, public relations uh, as a discipline, I think has taken a lot of strain over the years. In fact, I mean, some of them can even move into spin doctoring. I think they even called it at some stage. But you have these public relations people that will spin out articles that make something look nice and dashy and flashy, and maybe have let's say there's a charity event, and then they show photographs of all these happy people painting fences, and I mean, or whatever it is that they're doing, and picking up rubbish, and I don't know, feeding I don't know, people, I don't know, whatever. And then the public relations people would do something like that. I mean, I can't resonate with it. I mean, that's me. I mean, maybe I'm offending people right now, but if the people show like this is how we operate. There's a customer walking in. This customer is upset. How do we deal with it? I mean, what is the real life? I mean, this person has potentially lost a partner. I mean, their life partner's potentially passed on. They need to invest their money. What do? They're looking to get out of their current property because their children have left home and now they need to downsize. I mean, that's on the residential side. On the commercial side, there are CEOs and executives that are also going through ups and downs of business. They're stressed about this or that. They just want someone to resonate with and to connect with. And I mean, reading sometimes these messages, almost like these messages are shouting at you. It's like, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. I'm so good. And you've got to be so careful with that balance between, hey, I'm a real person, as opposed to polishing it up to a point where it's like, hey, I'm perfect. I'm brilliant or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I want to get your response on that.
Firstly, I've always been a big believer of there's power in vulnerability. Most people see this as a weakness, but if you're authentic to who you are, and people will support you because your values are there and you're honest about where you are. Most of the time, people can see straight through, my language, but your bullshit. People can see straight through it because they know that you're not being your authentic self. They can feel the energy is very powerful, intuition is very powerful. And we underestimate that in the world of marketing because people need to feel like they connected to something a bit more. And this is why, I love reading this book. It's called Blue Ocean Strategy. I highly recommend it. And it talks about value innovation. Or in particular, one of the areas of innovation is how do you take something functional? How do you take something so traditional and make it emotional? If you think about every big brand that's achieved tremendous amount of success, what have they done? They've taken something so small, so functional, and they've made it as emotionally as they possibly can to connect with people. And if and we can learn from that. We can learn from the idea of how do we carry ourselves in more of an emotional sort of way so people can feel like okay, they can trust us. It's there's an amazing story of an individual on the stage, and I was showing a a couple around a property, and this couple walked around the property, and they walked out into the garden, and the wife was reminded of a particular tree that looked like and a swing that looked like as if it was her child, and they continued to walk around the property. And what the estate agent smartly did was kept coming back to the tree. Every window he walked to, it's like, oh, there's that tree. He got an amazing view of it too. While the husband was completely saying no to all of this, he didn't really like it. They ended up buying the property because of the emotional attachment that we could create for that person, even with our investments. I tell our clients like, why are you doing this? Is it for your kids? Is it for next door others? What does this mean to you? What does this product and service mean to you as an individual? It's a bit more harder when you're selling this in a corporate environment or you're selling this to a larger firm. But even that, there's always a reason as to why people do something. There's
Yeah,
always
exactly. I
an
mean,
emotional reason to it.
yeah, and in a commercial environment, it could be career, it could be something they're trying to do. That just is something different, something special. They're trying to build. Some people just get a thrill out of improving and others or improving their colleagues' lives, etc., etc. And I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head there. It's being authentic, being real, um, just connecting with the reasons why people want to do something, and if you can resonate and assist them, um, and if you can't, just be honest. Just say, look, this is probably not something I can do to help you, but I can maybe introduce you to someone else who can help, or try this and do that, and then come back when you're ready to do this, that next thing. So it's about giving the balanced, advice and support from their point of view, not what I can get out of it as quick as possible. I think that's the approach. If yeah.
There's something that you really nicely said, and you said something like, "How else can I help you? Who can I introduce you to?" Now, one of the reasons why my brand is where it is and the business is where it is because over the last 12 years of business, we've helped people that we have that we're not going to make money out of. We're helping because we genuinely want to help people. We'll make introductions. And those introductions are so powerful because now they feel that you're now a trusted source of advice and a trusted source of contacts. If you can become that trusted source, regardless of whether it's personal or business,
Mm.
people will love it. For example, although I'm walking into commercial settings and I'm talking to executives, they're in their corporate day-to-day jobs. I'm meeting them in their lunch hour, I'm meeting them during a certain time, and they're in this corporate work environment. And all they're thinking about is corporate work. My relationship goes straight personal. Like I put that aside and I make it personal and I say to people, you know, how can I help you? What is going on in your life or in your workplace that is a problem that I feel like I can assist you with?
Mm. Yeah, and all of a sudden you break down those barriers that come up when you are just trying to talk at people, sell at people. I want to shift gears slightly. I want to say, look, you have a few communities, a few audiences, if you like. You've got people that invest. You got developers. I think group of I think you said 100. I think are developers. They're different people and they have different needs and they have different approaches and views even of life and so on. How do you shift brand message? How do you shift your voice between these different types of audiences?
I think one is understanding what platform are you communicating to these audiences on. I have a very clear separation between how I who I target on LinkedIn, which is investors, and who I target on Instagram, which is property developers. And so what I will do is I'll separate it based on the audience that I'm trying to talk to, where that audience is. That's what makes us adapt. If I can go into a corporate environment, I can talk about investments and mergers and acquisitions, and I can talk about different things. And that works for me in the corporate environment. Or I can also go to a local property event, which is down the road from me, and there's a bunch of property developers and investors. And I can talk to them about raising capital because that's my messaging on a different platform. And depending on where what if you talk to different audiences, create some level of separation. Facebook is a bit of everything. It's not really corporate, but you still have a bit of corporate business going on, but you also have a bit of a personal relationship with people. But also you have this links for property developers. What you can do is you can build separate communities for each, just like you've done. You're a prime example of this. You've turned around and built community for marketing, and you built community for M&A, and you build communities for different things. It's simple. You've just created different marketing campaigns and targeting people on different platforms. And that's what's allowed you to separate audiences. Now, how I turn up to a property event and how I turn up to an investor, I'm going to show up in two different ways. I'm going to be much more relaxed in a property setting because I need to just become friends and become this person who's sharing knowledge all the time. Well, if I'm in a corporate environment, I'm speaking to investors, I'm listening. I'll just switch styles in terms of who I'm speaking to. And we have to really understand our customers and our client base, our target audience, in order for us to be adaptable.
Mm.
That takes time and experience at the same time, but I feel like it is a lot of the time, very common sense if we know that actually, are corporate people going to be on LinkedIn or out there on Instagram? Probably so. But why should I focus on that audience on Instagram when I could focus on a different audience there?
Yeah, you gotta go. I mean, it's the old adage of go to the market. I mean, you gotta let's say you're a fisherman, you've just gone fishing, you've just arrived with your boat onto the shore, you put your fish in the baskets and that, and now you're gonna go and look for a place to sell your fish. I mean, you look, there's one light there and there's one light there in the distance, but over there, there's like 100 lights. There's a lot of people
Mhm.
together. I might as well go there because there's potentially better chance of me it's meeting the right people. And it's almost that kind of thing. It's like you got to understand who your platform is. You got to meet them where they are. And then you've also got to be ready and to be authentic, real. And I think you said vulnerable, I think was your other word. So those are key takeaways for me. I mean, you want to expand a bit on that? So you seem to have a thought on that.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of people, and this is a mistake us marketers make, or wherever can be you want to put it, so in any industry, right? We spend too much time networking with our own industry. It is. I never really understood why, because I'm not going to make money from attending all these marketing conferences. Yes, I'll build my brand within the marketing space, but what good does that do me? Yeah, I can probably sell a couple more courses and a couple more stuff, but I can't really provide a service unless for me, I think, okay, I go to public events because one, I've got a service I can provide them, but two, I go and invest in other businesses that add value to my own industry. But majority of my networking, 90% of the time are people away from the industry. Because that's where I know I'm going to get paid. Well, that's where I know I'm going to be able to raise more capital. Because I like to call it a value balance. This
Mm,
value balance is very simple. If you have the knowledge and the time to do something, there's people out there who don't have the knowledge and time, but they have the finances to be able to do it. You just got to be able to make sure that those scales are even
mm,
and you're able to add value to those individuals. If he spends, shit, you can be really popular. And I tried this before. I tried to become really popular in marketing. I just gave up because I thought I'm spending so much time doing that. I'm forgetting about the people that I'm actually there to help. And even in business environments, it's very easy to get stuck with a little clique of individuals where there's that same terms of commerce, that same environment as to where all the business people hang out. And they never do business together. Well, some of them
mm.
may do. But they're not really there to help you and pass your business because for them it's just a way for them everyone to meet together. We go to this event every single month and every single week and we expect to get business out of it. But I'm like, how does that work? Go
No,
where
that,
your clients are or go where you're actually gonna get paid from, rather than spending so much time building your brand in an industry where, it's not really gonna get you paid that much a month.
well, you're going to get known, but you're not going to. And I think the concept is, for me, if I translate it into my own words, I would say go where you can serve people. And if you within a community that you are not really serving, you should question why you are there. Because as human beings, I think, and this is again some of the values I have is you need to move into a space where you can serve others. If you become dead weight, maybe that's not the right word, but you become this extra body that's just filling space, not adding value, not serving others, not helping others achieve their goal. I mean, you're not fulfilling your purpose on earth, I think. I think there's more to it than just selling stuff. I think if you need to be in a space where you can serve. And what can you serve? Your talents, your skills, your knowledge, your abilities, maybe tools, maybe things that you've developed over time. But you got to go where you can serve. And I think that's part of how what the takeaway I get from that. Would that be fair, a fair assessment?
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. But let's focus on people. Like, we've talked a lot about the analytic approach and some of the key things that you can call them the foundations of marketing. But let's really talk about some of those audiences or some of the audience that might be in a corporate setting and might be a marketing person within that department. How do they quantify this into results? How do they make this a profitable thing, what we're talking about? And the key thing that I realized was in order for us to scale our marketing, for us to really make a dent within our businesses or within our companies, is one, we need a process. And if your marketing department, if your business is yet to map out your process for both marketing or for anything that matter, any part of business. So let's talk about marketing here. If you're unable to map out a process that you can consistently do on a day-to-day basis, what will happen is you will always be trying stuff and not getting results. And you can't measure things, you can't improve things, you can't take things forward. So for me, I would look at, how do I process map all of this? How do I take all the things that need to be done from a marketing point that maybe I don't have the time for, or I don't need to do, or I don't want to be doing, or I should be doing because it's not as impactful of me. How can I take that process and then either scale it? And there's two ways of scaling. Yeah, we can talk about automation, but how about if we offshore it? How about if we hire the right talent in order for us to be able to repeat that process day in, day out? And they essentially, you can then measure your return on investment.
Yeah,
So
and I
equally, there's, okay, we're talking about being personable, being trustworthy, being authentic. But at the same time, you still need a process to think. You still need a structure or a system that allows you to do it. And you can still scale this one-to-one approach. We're not saying you can't. If someone was to do a lot of the work for you and allow you to generate those appointments, you can then just jump on the appointment, still be your authentic self and still close that deal in an authentic way. There's got to be touch points where you're still going to keep personalization of that authenticity, but there's got to be a process in order for you to follow before you even think about, okay, how do I take this, take everything that I've learned, how do I apply it to what I'm doing? What processes have we mentioned? What systems have we mentioned today that can be put into a bit of a map or a manual, if you want to call it, just like a manual for a car or if you're building something? What is that manual? What is my manual? Once you've created that manual, then you can think, okay, what parts do I enjoy? What parts do I still want to personalize and stay authentic and still have that one-to-one emotional approach? And what parts of it do I now want to scale? And you can then make that decision from there.
mm, I love that. I think that is a brilliant takeaway. And how do you make all those good ideas of being authentic, etc.? How do you make it real and practical? And you've done exactly that. You've said, okay, let's map it out. Let's break it down into the component parts. Let me understand what I can do, what I can outsource, what I can automate, what I can do on a repeatable basis. Because I think that's the secret to having a successful business is finding what you're good at, who your market is, what you can do to serve them, and then to have a process that you just keep repeating. Because if you have to custom every single engagement with a custom make an engagement with every single customer, it becomes incredibly difficult to deliver some kind of consistency or build a reputation or build testimonials and so on. So, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I think people don't think of marketing as a system or a process, and people don't think of it as a step-by-step repeatable process. But I think you've just said it, and it's working well for you.
And I only learned this by the mistakes that I made. This isn't something that I would say, okay, I just knew this and then I started applying it. I made my mistakes all in building a business, then having to leave that business or shut down that business because I was going into operation and I didn't replace myself. Or for me to, to get to the stage where I'm burning out from having to do all of this work, when in reality I should be focusing on the actual service that I'm providing, the service that I'm doing for others. So this comes from burnout, this comes from heartache, this comes from, losing income and losing profit. So whilst we're saying stay, do the utilize some of the things that we're saying today, we also need to ensure that we're still producing some level of ROI.
Love it. I love it. I'm just mindful we got a few minutes left, and I want maybe if you just tell us a little bit, first one to hear if there's one or two more quick takeaways or golden nuggets you want to share. And then I want to go into sort of work-life balance. I mean, you're a busy guy. You got 5 businesses. You got lots going on. You're an entrepreneurial guy. You're obviously passionate about what you do. There are a lot of other things external that you also do. I mean, just tell us a bit about that, but just one or two last takeaways if you want to share, and then go straight into sort of is there such a thing as work-life balance? And what do you do in terms of keeping yourself saying? I mean, you talk about burnout, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, you can just get better at business, but surely there's a little more.
Yeah, I think my last takeaway for those that when it comes from a marketing approach is I like to call it a blindfold technique. What I mean by this is a lot of the time we are so focused on a destination, on a trying to achieve something or a result, and we're so focused on that destination that we forget about the journey and as to how we get there. And I'm going to take an example of as if you're in the gym. Or actually even a better example of a world's strongest man. The world's strongest man is a guy came named by the name of Mark Feely. I think that was his name. This guy is closer to retirement. A lot of people will write him off and say he's not where he needs to be. And he's still competing at those ages. What he did in a particular competition was, whilst everyone is focusing on the audience and the hype, and they're pulling these two so big pillars together, they have to hold these for as long as they possibly can. Mark Feeder, while everyone is sort of panicking and showing their sweat and screaming and looking around and watching, what he did was which was powerful. I would recommend if you go watch the scene or watch this whole clip, is he just closes his eyes and he doesn't pay attention to anything else but what he's doing. He blocks out everything. He just calms himself down and he just holds it there. And it's the same with if you're on a treadmill. You know, you've been on a treadmill, you're running towards, okay, I need to complete these 20 minutes of pure intensity. And I'm going to incline and I'm putting this effort in. But every time you go watch the clock, it looks like it's if it's going slower. It's like it's getting harder and harder. And your body starts to feel it more. But
Yes.
close your eyes, put a blindfold on.
Mm.
Don't pay attention to the clock. Don't pay attention to the result that you want or the destination that you're going to. Pay attention to where you are right now and just doing it every single day, and the result will come. Why people get so disheartened with marketing is because they're so focused on the result of an ROI that they forget about this process that they need to that they think that they need to do every day consistently. I work with tons of developers and people. I'm teaching people how to raise capital, and and I have to, and they're like, okay, how quick can you get us these results? And I'm like, you put in the work and you put in the effort on a day-to-day basis, and you make it a priority for you to do it. And this is the important thing: you make marketing a priority. You put a blindfold on, and you just go with it. And you'll get to the stage where you'll get to the destination you want without having to feel the pain
Mm.
or the burnout or the frustration of not getting to it.
Love that. That is fascinating. I mean, that is a stunning, stunning piece of advice, and that's surely gonna be remembered by me. That's for sure. I want to now just go into sort of a bit of personal. Then tell us about your company, what you do, how can people get hold of you, and so on. So let's as we go into the last sort of 2 3 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, sure. My name's Abdul Shakur, and they can find me at abdulshakur.com, where I teach people how to raise their private equity, for regardless of what they want to do. I'm you can also find me on social media platforms, Abdul Shakur LDN, that's for London. Um, they can just reach out to me. I'm pretty accessible. I live by that, and if people reach out to me, I will respond to their messages, and I will talk to them, and I'll spend some time with them. And I'm happy to do that with anyone in your audience.
Love it. Love it. You were an absolutely brilliant guest, Abdul. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today. You are a busy guy, and after chatting to you yesterday, listening to your journey, coming from not so well of background, working your way through marketing agencies, sort of exiting that, and now becoming this expert in a completely different space, but still using those core strategic marketing concepts and principles, but continuously learning as well and applying new things. But some of the takeaways were absolutely brilliant. um, Thankfully, it's recorded. I'm definitely going to re-listen to this one as well. So thank you very much for that. And I really do hope, I want to put out the invitation, Abdul, if you want to come back on the show again in a few months and you got something special you want to share, please, by all means, please do. But thank you for that.
No, I appreciate it. And, life has its ups and downs. And I want to leave everyone in this well. Life has its ups and downs. And there's something that I learned more recently is if, if you're excited and happy a third of the time, if you're okay at the end of the time and you feel crap at the end of the time, your life is okay. And that's, and I apply this to, you talked about work-life balance and better. That's how I see it. I've
Mm.
accepted the fact that things aren't going to be great all the time. Things are going to be really crap most of the time. There's a third of the time which things are going to be exciting. And even if we can accept that, we can really start to, we can really start to make shifts, and we can really start to be in our natural flow element, as we like to call it.
Excellent. I love that, and that's probably not a work life balance, but it's a balanced view of life. I love that. I mean, that's brilliant. We just got to thank you there for the valuable information. I mean, there's other comments as well, but thank you very much, Abdul. Thank you. All the best. Thank you to the audience as well. Just stay on the line, Abdul. I just want to say goodbye to everybody. Um, Thank you very much, everyone who's joined us today for marketing leadership, leadership in marketing. And Abdullah is probably a great example, a massively brilliant example of someone who's gone from digital work through to becoming a true leader in marketing and marketing his business, growing his business, but growing through growing others. And I absolutely love that story and some of the anecdotes and some of the wise words. Absolutely brilliant. And I urge you to even re-listen to the episode, which I'll do myself as well. Some great takeaways and so on. Please join us on our next episode of Marketing Leadership. We have some really good guests lined up. And also just join us. So we have, like I said, on Fridays we have business growth principles, and we have tons of other ways in which to help you and support you in your journey to reaching the goals and achieve the things that you really want to achieve. And we're open to sharing, listening, and understanding, and even pointing you in the right direction. We're building a massive community of people that are on our different podcasts, and with that community, with that network, you got access to a wealth of help and support and understanding about mostly the guys that you talk to have been through tough times themselves and they understand. So you're welcome to throw anything our way. Have a super day. Have a brilliant rest of the week, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.